Good morning, Bix Weir, Roota.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of chaga coffee. Um, Been a crazy month. all these, all this information, all this change. Last night I was freaking out. This morning I feel good. Um, I'm basically taking all this information, understanding that everything's changing and everything will be different. And it's very sad to see things go in the past, and it's probably human nature to miss the old days. You think back when you were a kid, like in high school, your senior year, and in college, if you went to college, or the good old days when you and your wife would run around in love, and all the old days always seem so better because you remember the good things, you don't remember the bad things. Well, you kind of remember the bad things, but you usually look back at the bad things that happened to you and say, oh, that was a turning point of why I changed into this direction. And I think we'll look back at this time and say, oh, that was the turning point why we changed into this direction. So I have posted the full Cliff High interview on the private road and on Patreon Plus. I will be posting parts of it that I can post next week on YouTube for everybody. So if you want to see the whole thing, go there today. Here's what I want to talk about today. A new crypto viewing target was posted. They give a little sneak peek on the public YouTube channel. I am a proud member of, I think it's $39.95 a month group within crypto viewing, and it's worth it absolutely. The glimpses into the future. I don't always agree with their analysis, but it is an amazing technology. That's what it is. Crypto viewing, those guys, they are implementing a technology. But they went into this thing called, what was this? The strange remote viewing target. This is like a teaser they put up on their YouTube channel. Go check it out. It is worth, I mean, at least it was for me, this actual target. And looking at the full breakdown of what it is, kind of similar to Cliff, that things are changing, the world's going to be different, and you're going to have to learn to deal with it. They come from different angles, but interesting, especially the second half of my Cliff interview when we talk about ET and stuff like that. So bravo, guys. Nice job on this. Of course, I always have a different take, and yeah. But it is helpful. All this stuff is helpful in how you're going to navigate your way forward. And that's what we're really doing, is we're navigating our way through this lifetime, learning lessons, preparing, experiencing the good, the bad, the ugly. I like to look at the positive side, because that's what I'm here to do. And there is a way to get out of this shit. And I think we're coming to that point. And yes, there will always be bad, because without the bad, you won't understand the good. And that's the key to life. Is without the heat, you don't understand the cold. Without the love, you don't understand the hate. That's why we're here, to experience this whole thing. And boy, what a time to be on planet Earth. So go check out that. It's really a woo-woo session with a target that you wouldn't think was woo-woo, but I do. I think that there's a lot of woo-woo going around right now. And on that point, a lot of what Cliff talked about at the end and the crypto viewing talked about is our engagement outside of this planet. If you want to see an amazing discussion about the need to go off planet, go to YouTube. Stephen Quast is the guy who gave the speech at Hillsdale College. He's been involved in the secret space force and all that, and he nails it. And go check that out. It's a really, really good discussion about the future is not on planet Earth. The future is in space, especially economically, and our engagement with other species, other planets, ETs, and all that. Go check it out. It's called The Urgent Need for a U.S. Space Force. And we all know Trump has officially declared that we have a Space Force, and it was absolutely needed. Not necessarily for the war against space aliens, but for engagement with other beings and the changes that are coming to our planet and how we deal with them, how we're manipulated, how can we brace ourselves, how can we get out from the manipulation and declare our sovereignty as free individuals. It's not going to be easy, but it absolutely is something we need to do. And that's the key to, as we go through this transition, is what we don't want to lose in our country, in our way of life. Founding fathers created us for a reason, created the system for a reason. And it was the best thing since sliced bread at the time. And I think if we can return to something like that after this bullshit ends, it will be the best thing since sliced bread once again. All right, here's a problem we're having. Millions of now unemployed Americans are making more money than they did when they were working. Yes, it is the Democrats' wet dream. It is a socialist wet dream. Millions now unemployed Americans are making more money than they did when they were working. Absolutely. With all the benefit things being handed out by the government, they are making more money. Why should they don't want to go back to their job? Maybe that's a good thing. What does it lead to? It leads to socialism, leads to communism, and it leads to destruction of everything and death. Just a little sneak peek, more than 26 million Americans have filed new claims for unemployment benefits in recent weeks. And a lot of them will now be bringing home much more money than they did while they were actually working. Needless to say, this is going to create a perverse incentive for people to stay unemployed for as long as possible. Just think about this for a moment. If you could earn more money sitting on your sofa, gobbling down chips and watching Netflix, what possible motivation would you have to go back to work? Many low-paid workers are going to want to ride this gravy train all the way to the end. And as you will see below, this is already causing big problems for businesses across America. So how did we get to this point? Well, the Democrats pushed extremely hard to get a provision into the CARES Act that would give unemployed workers an additional $600 a week on top of any normal unemployment benefits. The following comes from the USA Today. The CARES Act includes a $600 a week bonus until July 31st for those registered as unemployed. The $600 is issued in addition to the standard unemployment benefit. Now, it's interesting where you live in the United States. Like, that won't go far in California, in the big cities of California. It goes a hell of a long way in Idaho and Wyoming and things like that. But still, what's the incentive to go back to work if, when you add up all your benefits now from the government, it's more than what you were doing when you went back to a job that you didn't even like in the first place? And what does that mean if the system collapses? Would it be, hey, we've got a system in place already to reallocate money? And what kind of money are they getting right now? They're getting the old fiat stuff. Very interesting times. Very interesting times. What does it mean for our future, though? I mean, when all this bullshit is gone and the old banking system is wiped away, are we going to live on the federal government's printed money, and how long would that last? Luckily for us, there are plenty of examples of what happens in a socialistic society. And what's going on right now in Venezuela is a great example of where we'll end up unless when this is all over, or when the transition is done, the old monetary system breaks down and we have to start again. It's a great example of what happens if you turn to a socialistic form of government versus I wish we had true capitalism, but it probably won't be true capitalism. There'll have to be some kind of social network in place to move us forward to the next system. Anyway, here's what's going on in Venezuela. Violent food and fuel shortages, riots grip Venezuela amid COVID-19 lockdown. Despite 6 weeks mandated nationwide coronavirus lockdown, broad protests once again gripped parts of Venezuela and crippling food and fuel shortages. Citizens are being asked to stay home, yet can't get enough food to survive. New reporting by Bloomberg counts at least 500 protests across 15 states so far this month. which has included multiple killed and scores of wounded and arrested, often in violent clashes with police, also as the protests turned to looting. Of course, if you're protesting against the lack of food, lack of availability, because you rely on the government to take care of you forever. And it doesn't work that way because the incentive to work goes away. And nobody wanted to work. Hey, we got oil, we're fine. We're gonna kick back, and the government's paying for my cell phone, they're paying for my TV, they're paying for my 4 square meals a day. And then that stops. That's when the death and destruction comes. And it stops because of all kinds of things. Mainly the leaders up above take their new power and destroy everything. The way to stay in power in a socialist society is to give more to the people. Allocate more. And as soon as they start allocating less to the people, that's when everything breaks down. So if we keep going down this road where nobody has to work, we have a problem. So what do? Well, the road to Roota theory was very clear about what was going to go on. Helicopter money just to destroy the monetary system, to destroy the old system. That's what's happening right now. We're at the end of that game. Here's a great article by Alistair MacLeod, a great Gada guy, Anatomy of a Fiat Currency Collapse. Now, I don't agree with a lot of this article for one reason. I think it's all planned. It's part of the road to Roota plan is to create money to infinity, soaking up all the benefits, and then destroy it totally. And Alistair seems to think, they're unwittingly destroying the currency. That's not true. They're doing it on purpose. Anyway, this article asserts that infinite money printing is set to destroy fiat currencies far quicker than might be generally thought. This final act of monetary destruction follows a 98% loss of purchasing power for dollars since the London gold pool failed. And now the Fed and other major central banks are committing to an accelerated infinite monetary debasement to underwrite their entire private sectors and their government spending to prop up bond markets and therefore all financial asset parties. It repeats the mistakes of John Law in France 300 years ago almost to the letter, but this time on a global scale. Economic theory, and even common sense tells us governments and their central banks will rapidly destroy their currencies. So that we can see how to protect ourselves from this monetary madness, we dig into history for guidance to see who benefited from the Austrian and German hyperinflations in 1922, 1923, and how fortunes were made and lost. Good article. I suggest you check it out. It's at goldmoney.com. Good guys over there. But what I would say to Alistair is absolutely this is 100% what the Fed had planned to do. Run the system as long and hard as possible, soaking up all the benefits, build your roads, your bridges, your military, your houses, while at the same time destroying your currency on purpose. On purpose. And this has been going on since 1971, since the invention of electronic money and the rigging programs that Alan Greenspan put in place in the early 1970s. Case in point, the Road to Roota comic book from the Fed in 1981. 1981. 40 years ago. Look what Roota wrote in the sand when she was trying to figure out how to allocate the colored flowers from the golden light. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to roadrooter.com and watch the first 2 videos. She writes in the sand this economic formula. This economic formula, you can see it right here. You see E equals MC squared. But also this formula here with the T over to infinity. That formula is this. Formula called On the Road to the Golden Age. On the Road to the Golden Age. And what the On the Road to the Golden Age theory says, written by Bertil Nasland. Now, it's interesting. This did not get a Nobel Prize in the 1960s, this formula. But I think it was because they had to keep it secret. They put Bertil Nasland on the board to figure out who gets the Nobel Prize. But I analyzed it in the Road to Roota video. Go to roadrooter.com. Second video down, as you scroll down the page, is called An Introduction to Roota. And this part, when you get to 1 hour, yes, it's a long video. Because the Road to Roota theory is not just some comic book. It needs to be understood for the hidden meanings behind it. and who did it, why they did it, and what's going on is playing out exactly as I said in 2007 when I first discovered this thing. So what was Roota's big plan? This is the frame of this presentation that I give. In the comic, Roota's plan is to return colored flowers, which is money, to Pebbleton, which is the USA, USA people. Pebble people is what they call them, to Pebbleton, which can also be understood as returning the United States to a gold standard. Yes, when this was written in 1981, the plan was a gold standard. Also in 2007, the plan was a gold standard. 2007 is when they redid the comic and released it with the teacher's guide with big exclamation, the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. That was always the plan behind the scenes. And it shows the two, the On the Road to the Golden Age theory and what Roota was writing in the sand. This is all, Stephen DeVoe is the guy who wrote the comic book, computer programmer for the Fed Boston, and then moved into the banking system, taught them how to rig the markets with computers, then went to IBM and put internal embedded codes in all the machinery on planet Earth. So he could shut down, the people who control these programs now can shut down a power plant in Iran if they wanted to, and they have. So, and then it goes on. When tasked with this by the mayor, now it was Ford who brought Alan Greenspan in as the Council of head of the Council of Economic Advisors. When tasked with this by the mayor, which in the comic book is represented by Ford, Roota writes economic formulas in the sand. In the 1981 version, it was an asset allocation model very similar to On the Road to the Golden Age theory, which concluded that in order to return to a gold standard, a country should first increase the unbacked fiat money to infinity, soaking up all the benefits of free money before returning to the discipline of a gold standard. That is exactly what's going on right here, Alistair. This is all being done on purpose and as a plan. And this is, you're right, this is the end of that game. But what you're missing, it says the mistakes made by John Law, it's not a mistake. It is untenable. The creation of unbacked fiat money cannot last. The only reason it's lasted for 40, 50 years now, this is the longest ever, and Alistair knows this very well, that an unbacked fiat currency has lasted. The only reason it did last this long is the market rigging programs and computer money that was created by Alan Greenspan in the 60s and implemented in the 70s by his mentor, Arthur Burns, the head of the Fed. That is why the system has done what it has done over these past 50 years. Otherwise, it would have crashed just like the John Law story out of France. The computer programs were able to rig the markets. That's it. And if you control the price of commodities, you can and you can control the CPI and all the other statistics coming out of the federal government, you can control an entire global monetary system. And now that's breaking down because they want it to break down. It is time. So go watch that, an introduction to the Road to Roota, and then right after it, you go up the page a little bit at roadtoroota.com, and you're going to see a presentation called Golden Oldies to the Crypto Future. This is how it changed. In 1981, it was all about the gold standard. In 2007, it was still about the gold standard, but don't forget when Satoshi released his white paper. Right after the bailouts in 2008, literally 2 months after. And Satoshi took 2 years to work on the white paper, right? When did Alan Greenspan leave the Fed? 2 years prior to that. Yes, Satoshi is Alan Greenspan. Part of the group that created Bitcoin, which included John Kennedy, the inventor of basic computing, Steve Jobs, the guy who put a computer in your hand to make Bitcoin functional, Alan Greenspan, the guy who invented financial computing, and there's one more guy. I haven't figured out what the other guy is, but he's a younger guy, one of the cypherpunks. But the most important guy is Alan Greenspan, the world's best computer programmer since computer programming was invented. Since a shareable computer program was invented by John Kennedy in the early 1960s, who invented BASIC. That's what Root A stands for. It's a programming term, the basis of all money. There you go. That's my take. when you put this all together, I know it's hard to digest, but you put it all together. Things we need to think about now is we're in the very end game of the road to Roota. That's 50 years of computer price manipulation. It is key to understand that people need to be taken care of right now, but we need to hold on to our sovereignty. Do not let the dark forces take over our lives and our future. No microchips in your body, no required vaccinations, and all that bullshit that these dark forces are trying to do. It's going to be hard, and most likely we'll lose. We've lost for the last 2,000 years. But I still have hope, and I still am going to fight for what is true and right within my country and within my life, because I think that's why I'm here. And I know a lot of you out there, too, on the road to Roota think that's the right way. That's what we want. That's why Jeff Berwick's all pissed off, and everybody's all pissed off. And some people just say, okay, I'll go with it. Like Dick Allgaier said, I'll go with it. Fine. Yeah, they've won for 2,000 years. Why won't they win again? I hear you, Dick. I love your little jabs when in your videos when you go, yeah, sure, there's going to be freedom in America. Yeah, cryptos are going to save us. Yeah. They can if you let them. If you open your mind to the good stuff and those dark forces you feel, kick them out. You have the power. Your sovereign soul has the power to fight these bastards. And it's a good fight, in my opinion. And that's the fight I've chosen. So, there you go. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you guys later.